This weekend was the anniversary of Israel's independence. Last week, I was there in Jerusalem, and I described to you the joy that I saw of those who celebrated this independence. But this weekend, we saw the exact opposite. Demonstrators flooding Israel's borders to protest the anniversary, to which they refer to as Nakba Day, which means Day of Catastrophe. The clashes with Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, occurred mainly along the hostile border areas of Syria, Jordan, and the West Bank, and Gaza, left 16 people dead. They climbed fences in an attempt to overwhelm security forces, and many did get in. Hundreds later were captured. The protests were organized on Facebook. This is the first time that this tactic, the social media organizing, has been directed at Israel. We told you that it would happen, and mark my words, America, what is happening on the borders in Israel is coming to our borders someday. The Palestinians, see if this sounds familiar, Palestinians are talking about stolen land and the oppressor. What makes you think it'll remain in Israel? It's happening already in the school in Tucson we showed you last week. Our children in our country are being taught that America stole the land from Mexico and we are the oppressors. This is just a warm-up. There are also protests at Israel's embassy in Cairo, where 350 were injured this weekend. The unrest has subsided for now, but it is not going to continue that way. The flotilla is still on its way, and this will get stronger and stronger, and flashpoints will happen more and more frequently, and it will culminate in September, and the world will have to decide what to do. The fallout has only begun from just this weekend. Benjamin Netanyahu is calling the Syrian border confrontation staged by the Syrian government as to distract from the massive unrest in their own country. Is that true? Seems to be working. Is anybody talking about how the Syrians are gunning down the protesters in their own streets? No. The news this weekend with the complicit media here in America is all about those evil Israelis. And the media is all too willing to promote pictures that portray Israel as the giant evil oppressor and the Palestinians as the poor innocent souls on the receiving end of the boot from Israel. The Prime Minister of Hamas now has come out and said that they will not recognize Israel and urged all Muslim worshippers to pray for an end to Israel. Called on Netanyahu to return to the borders back on how they were pre-1967. If he's serious about peace, they say. That's what the so-called two-state solution means. It means that the borders will cut Jerusalem, and you will have a border that runs here. And so you, the rest of the world, will not be able to go into the old city of Jerusalem, the holy city. All of the religious sites for the most prominent religions in the world will go to the Arabs. And it's not just the Mideast. This protest and this gearing to get people to accept this two-state solution is happening now in Washington as well. Code Pink is holding a rally in D.C. to protest Benjamin Netanyahu's visit. They plan to honor Helen Thomas, of all people. They invited her to speak, but she didn't want to be a distraction, so she withdrew. Instead, she's just attending as a journalist. Here she is, in case you forgot.
Any comments on Israel? We're asking everybody today. Any comments on Israel?
Tell them to get the hell out of Palestine.
Ooh. Any better comments?
Remember, these people are occupied, and it's their land. It's not German, it's not Poland.
So where should they go? What should they do?
They go home.
Where's the home?
Poland.
So the Jews,
Germany.
I mean, I don't see how people don't see the difference between good and evil. The world is ramping up, and Israel is being set up. Believe me, by September, it will be bottom up, top down, and inside out, and people will beg, Israel, just compromise. There is good and evil in the world, and those with eyes must see it, those with ears must hear it, and those with mouths must say it. The Middle East is lining up to take a stand on Israel, and the whole world is lining up behind them. Iran is reportedly active in this weekend's protest on Israel. We've shown you the Arab Spring, which caused Iran to make all kinds of new friends all across the Middle East. They're uniting against an easy target. It's basically this, what we told you in January. Do you have this? The radical Islamists, communists, and socialists will all work against Israel, work against capitalism, work together to overturn stability. They will cascade, sweep the Middle East, begin to destabilize Europe and the rest of the world. That is happening, gang. And I know I was called a crackpot in January for telling you that, but that is what is happening. All right. Now, the country that wants to wipe Israel off the map and run the Jews into the sea is making nice with Turkey and the Muslim Brotherhood, the group that wants to start war with Israel and destroy it, and our CIA and our president says, oh, they're fine, and they're gaining more and more power. This quote is from a prominent, wealthy, liberal activist in Egypt. Quote, they have substituted the dictatorship of Mubarak with the dictatorship of the Muslim Brotherhood. That's where Egypt is going now. Gee, I wish the world would have listened in January. Ask yourself this question. When you look at the events in the Middle East that are happening, are they making Israel, America, and those people in Arab countries that really truly want freedom more safe or less safe? That's an easy answer. You and I are probably an awful lot alike. It wasn't too long ago that I would have said, let them solve it themselves, two-state solution. I don't really care. What difference does it make to me? Well, it does make a difference. It matters to you and me. Well, you may hear the strife of the Palestinians. Are you hearing the strife of the Christians being targeted in Egypt, or the Jews that are being targeted? This is from Egypt. They're burning churches. Gang, we're all in this together. I don't care what religion you are. Does anyone really believe when Israel is forced into a two-state solution that the Middle East will suddenly be calm and stable and all of these things will be solved? Let me tell you something. If you disarm Hamas and Hezbollah and the radicals in the Middle East, there will be peace. If you disarm Israel, there will be no Israel and no peace. I contend, if there is no Israel, we are shortly behind. The most holy sites on the planet are there. Ask yourself this question. Do you believe that when they are in Arab control, like those big Buddhist statues with the Taliban, that they will remain open and safe? We have the Western Wall, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It's the place where Jesus apparently was killed and was buried and rose again. The Mount of Olives, the site of the Last Supper. The Temple Mount, the foundation stone. It's where Abraham went with Isaac. All of it. All in this one place. If you go back to the way it was cut up in 1967, Christians and Jews will not be allowed to see these holy sites again. They are attacking us using religion. And they're doing it in the name of peace. And it will not work. There is real evil in the world. There always has been. But there are different times when different people need to speak out. This guy is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He's a German. He was a Lutheran minister. He was a guy who spoke out against Adolf Hitler on his first day in office. First day in office, he said, silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guilty. Not to speak is to speak. Not to stand is to stand. People of all faiths need to stand together. Last weekend I was in Israel and I met with a man named Rabbi Riskin. He's a leading voice and renowned for his innovative educational and social action programs. I don't know if I agree with him on politics or not. I don't really care. I know he's under attack in some quarters because in his position, rabbis don't usually meet with Christians and talk about Ezekiel. But he's reaching out as much as he can. And there are many people in Israel that are doing that. Rabbi Riskin told me he's convinced that God is asking him to gather people of all faiths to stand together. Jews, Christians, Muslim, it doesn't matter. I believe the same thing. I have been made fun of for my tendency to challenge you to act. I mean, I made a list here. The 9/12 Project, 40-day and 40-night challenge, 8/28, it's where we all met in Washington to restore honor. The Wilmington lesson, I said this town can lead us out and teach us. Clean up your own life with E4. I wasn't sure exactly how all of these things tied together until recently. And earlier this year, right before I came back from vacation, I knew. And I knew what was supposed to happen next. Last year, I actually thought restoring honor would be really kind of like my last hurrah, and I'd be like, okay. I believe now it was just a precursor. This is what we did last August in Washington, D.C. This August, I'm going to be holding another event that I am calling Restoring Courage. This time, I ask you to meet me in Jerusalem. I mentioned Dietrich Bonhoeffer a few minutes ago. He has played a big role in my life recently. I believe, as he believed at those times, that trouble is coming for our Jewish friends and neighbors. And I believe that means something to all of us. We promised we would never forget and never let it happen again. I don't know if it's going to happen again now, but evil, an old familiar evil, is rearing its ugly head. Bonhoeffer, in 1933, was ahead of the curve, I guess. It's good to be ahead of the curve, but he never really got any traction. Nobody would listen. I think it was too late. When he asked people to stand, he got about 6 people to stand with him. I'm not kidding you. 6. I believe that we are ahead of the curve. Before the trouble starts, we have an opportunity as a world, as humans, to stand together before things get out of control. Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak, not to act is to act. Earlier this year, as I quite honestly tried to get away from my feelings on this and say, no, this is crazy, I read the book of Esther and the book of Ruth. In the book of Ruth, Naomi, her mother-in-law, said, and I'm horribly butchering this story, but read it for yourself. After all their husbands died, Mom said, come on, ladies, leave me, go find a husband. I'm not going to have any more boys that you can marry. And Ruth replied, do not urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. That is an act of courage. And that is what needs to be said to Israel and to the world and to God. What God commands to be said through his prophets of old. This August, I will stand where he has always been, in the ancient walls of the city of Jerusalem. I ask you tonight to spread the word and put the call out to the entire world to stand. It will be expensive to get there. It might be dangerous. And, you know, honestly, it might just be you and me and like 4 other people. I don't know. But I ask you, has there ever been a time in the history of man, in a relative period of peace and calm, before the storm really got underway, has there ever been a call to return to his city, a call to stand and to be counted? I ask you tonight to search yourself for what you believe about Israel and the Jews and our relationship. I ask you tonight to speak to your spouse and know where you stand and what that means. It's better to decide now. On 8/28 at the Lincoln Memorial, I quoted from Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, "The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, while it can never forget what they did here. It is rather for us, the living, to stand here. We here to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us." I say to you again tonight, with just a slight revision, the world will little note nor long remember what we say here. But this August in Jerusalem, possibly for the first time in man's history, God will remember and make note of what we do there. For more information, even if you can only attend electronically, go to glennbeck.com now.